From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and today my guest is Leo Lovett. He is a vice president with New Mexico Bank and Trust. Leo, great to have you this morning.
Oh, it is good to be here, Evelyn. Thank you.
We've known each other for a lot of years.
Yes, we have.
We won't talk how many.
No. As my son would say, it's been a minute.
Well, and the crazy, you actually worked with my mom out at the New Mexico Children's Home for a year or so.
Absolutely. What a great lady.
Truly,
Yes.
And she thought the same with you.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, just a pleasure. Let's dig in. Tell me a little bit about you, your background, and I know quite a bit of it, but others people don't.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and moved to Clovis during my high school years, and thought, oh my goodness, small town. But what a move it was to absolutely take part in things in school and to learn about community and to learn that you're a name, and so been able to do many things being in small town. And came over here to Eastern New Mexico University many years ago.
Go Greyhounds.
That's right, go Greyhounds, and got my accounting degree. And I was very thankful for the professors that kept in touch with myself. And they said, Leo, you need to come back and get your MBA. And so a number of years after getting my accounting degree, I came back over and got my my MBA, sorry.
Right.
And right at the start of the hybrid with the use of technology. And but it was really grateful for what Eastern gave to me as far as education and opportunities.
Sure. It's, and it's crazy. We were going to school at the same time, but really didn't know each other at that time. And we were even in the College of Business at the same time.
That's right.
But then ended up working at Yucca together
Yes.
And then going from there. So your family, you said from Denver?
Yes, I have. Really, everybody's moved away, but family is now here and up in Logan. And my mom and my uncle are there, and I am married to Nikki, and we're a blended family, and we have 4 children together. Okay. And I say children, they're all adults. I've got
still
one
our
in,
kids.
That's right, they're still our kids. I've got one in Fort Worth and one in Caballo, New Mexico, which is just south of TRC, and then 2 in Lovett.
Okay.
And they're all good kids.
And you were actually you're a twin.
I am, yeah, Katie, and really proud of her. I'll give a shout out. She just is completing pharmacy school.
Wow.
At our age, she graduates in May.
Wow, that's awesome because, my daughter did pharmacy and that's when she started at 22 and the memory's a little better at that point, but
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge. So
Yes.
great.
Very proud of her.
You've been in Clovis area. I know you've dabbled in some different things. You've been involved in politics some.
I have, yes. I feel like if you're going to be in the community, you need to be involved. And so not only with community service, which banking really has allowed me to be many volunteer opportunities, but to be involved with the Portales City Council as well as the Clovis City Commission at different times where I've lived.
Sure.
And so it's been a pleasure to serve.
So someday you'll be in the Santa Fe in the Roundhouse?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Wait and see what happens.
Yes, that's right.
Well, and I know you've always, we've done Rotary together and some different groups like that over the years, and super involved and just that same thing, giving back to the community in different capacities.
Absolutely.
So, how many years in banking now?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's going to age me, but really close to 25 years in banking. And primarily on the commercial lending side. I get the opportunity to help customers grow their businesses, really to achieve their dreams on the financial side of things.
Sure.
And so it's been a pleasure to serve them as well.
Well, and you've had an opportunity to work at some of the different branches of the different banks or different locations along the way. So you've seen a lot of different things. And
yes.
I think it says a lot when you want to come back to Portales and Clovis and come back home.
Absolutely. Some of the big banks, I've had the opportunity to even be in El Paso and run a business banking team in El Paso. And the team was great, but you just miss home.
Sure.
And miss Clovis, Portales. And so it's been good to be back home.
What drew you into the banking part?
It's interesting. I've always been a numbers guy, and but I couldn't see myself being a CPA where I'm just sitting there crunching numbers all day long.
Right.
And so talking with a good friend who got me into banking, which was Doug Stone at the time, and he says, "Why don't you come work for me?" And so it was a good fit because I get to use the knowledge with numbers, but also communicate with customers and really listen to them and see what their needs are and then put it together in a financial package.
And the benefits of when you are part of the community, you have those connections with people that you know a lot of people, which is very helpful in that world.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's great. That's great.
Yes.
Well, what we're actually going to talk about or focus on, and I appreciate you doing this. This is such a big deal in the world now. The differences of electronics compared to, just like you said, 25 years ago,
Yes.
electronic banking wasn't something that was even out there.
That's correct.
I know when we worked at Yucca, that was I started in '96. We were bringing the internet to Portales at that point.
Yes.
So the changes, but actually going to focus in on some of the frauds and things that happen, and primarily what we're going to focus in on is elder.
Yes.
You know, the financial things that happen with people getting into their back pockets or trying to so much.
Yes.
So elder financial exploitation, EFE. I'm having a hard time remembering what that even is, but
Yes.
we've seen a lot of things. Tell me, the benefits of the electronic banking has to outweigh the negative sides. But as banks, a lot of that is put on your shoulders to help watch out for customers as well.
It is. And instead of going through the EFE and explaining that, let's just call it elder abuse.
It
And that's
truly
exactly what it is. And we see a lot of financial abuse on our elders. And it's frustrating as a banker to see people being taken advantage of. And it's one of our top priorities is to stop the abuse when we see it.
Sure.
And to try to uncover it.
Right.
And but yes, absolutely, it's a big thing. The elders are just so trusting. They come from a generation of relying on each other, and unfortunately, it really helps them to be taken advantage of. They have some regular income that can just be supplemented, and they think that I can spend this and it's okay,
Sure.
and I'll get another check next month, and yet that's just a terrible way to lose money.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Just things like when I deliver Meals on Wheels. You have that opportunity to see what people's living conditions are, what they're doing, and they're lonely.
Yes.
And that, to me, is like if you don't have reputable people going in to do that, those are some areas that people see somebody that's vulnerable if they don't have family or other people watching out.
That's exactly right.
So actually, I got a definition for the EFE, but illegal or improper use of an older person's funds, property, or assets. And it's actually the fastest growing group of abuse. And what amazed me was, the perpetrators. What do you find of who those people are in your experience?
Well, not only locally, but also nationally. They say 9 out of 10 abusers either are family or know the victim or are a trusted individual by that victim. 9 out of 10.
Wow.
90% are folks that we should trust.
Sure.
And it doesn't happen.
Friends and family that you
Yes.
think are looking out for your best interest, and
Right.
then they wind up being the ones that get into the back pockets
That's exactly right.
to the biggest extent.
Yes.
Well, and something else, 84% increase in reported losses just between 21 and 22.
Yes.
And you gave us some great numbers on this. The amount now is just crazy.
Yeah, about $34.5 billion is estimated loss in 2023.
And that's what's reported.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And there's so much that goes unreported. I think the numbers are about 1 in 40 actually report the loss of money, the fraudulent activity, and because it's primarily from people that they've trusted or family, maybe their caregivers that they feel like they need to rely on, so they don't report it.
Right.
It's also been said that they don't report because of being embarrassed, and we need to help the seniors to understand that this is common and
Sure.
they're not alone, and that they need to report, and we need to figure out how to stop these perpetrators.
Well, and it gets more and more difficult. I mean, I'll get emails and different communications through that. And the big one at Christmas, I see Amazon notices, oh, we weren't able to process this order, call this number and we'll reactivate your account.
Yes. Yes. So let's talk about
Yeah,
that just a little bit.
sure.
So there's a lot of scams out there, and that's one of the prevalent scams is click on this link or accept a phone call
Hmm.
and then start answering questions. I will say unequivocally that as a banker, no bank will call you and ask you for your social security number. No bank will call you and ask for your account number. We already know
You
it.
have that.
We have that
You have
information.
that. And if
Yes.
you lost it, we're really in trouble.
That's exactly right. That's
So,
exactly right. And so if you get those calls, and sometimes a bank may call you, but don't give
mhm,
out that information that would, those identifiers as they call them. But if you're not sure, then call the number that you know is your bank phone number and call and say, is this real? And who do I need to talk to?
sure.
And because sometimes a bank will try to get in touch with you, but again, they will not ask for those identifiers.
And the difference of being in a small community, when we bank with New Mexico Bank and Trust in Clovis or somewhere like that, we know the people. We
Mhm.
come in there on a pretty regular basis and
Yes,
you know them. So if somebody calls, you actually recognize their voice.
yes.
But that may be changing now.
It is, and I'm really glad you brought that up. There were times that we could just recognize the voice.
Hmm.
We would, as a banker, as somebody would call in, we would still ask for identifiers because we don't know who's actually
Hmm.
calling in, and so we might ask for what was your last deposit or what's the last four of your social. I don't know that I've ever asked for a full social security number,
Hmm.
but now with AI and voice generation, it is that we're going to have to go away from that, and we really have to just depend on the identifiers,
Sure.
and it's a scary time.
Well, and something else. So when you spoofing a phone number, that
Mhm.
happens here at the station. Someone will call and say, they'll ask for my extension, and they'll say, "Well, I had a call from this number. I'm just, returning the phone call." And I said, "I've been at my desk. It could not have been my number." So
Yes,
people can actually copy those numbers and make it look legit.
yes,
That it shows up that it's, you know, your local bank or whatever.
yes.
So the recommendation is, should I make? I don't make that call. What should I do? What should I do?
Right. And I think if there's any nervousness, just don't give out information.
Right.
Err on the side of being quiet,
Or turn around and call
or
the number
and
that
then
you
call
know
back.
is legit that
Correct.
goes to the bank
Correct.
or
And
anyone
just to
like
give you
that.
an example of this, so a
Mhm.
number was spoofed of a bank, and they called in to a customer. And this was something I read. It wasn't one of our
Okay.
customers, thank goodness. But unbeknownst to the customer, is these scammers had got onto their online banking. And so they called the customer, spoofed the number, and they were able to get the customer convinced that it was the bank.
Sure.
And then they said, well, to identify you, we're going to send you some texts. They're going to have some numbers. Please read these numbers back to us. Well, what was happening is they were on the online banking, and the online banking has security
Right.
features to text the individual to make sure that it's the real person.
Mhm.
Well, sure enough, that person was reading off those confirmation texts, and they lost some significant money again because they accepted the phone call and they gave the identifiers instead of just hanging up.
Ow. Ow.
Yes.
And then the other thing, just the same as like calling the bank. One of the other frauds that we see is somebody calls and says, I'm your grandson.
Yes.
Hey, Grandpa, can I'm in trouble.
Yes.
Don't tell my family.
Right.
Can you wire me some money?
Yes. Yeah, those grandparent schemes. And that's probably the hardest because it's those heartstrings, and the grandparents care for their
Mhm.
grandkids. And unfortunately, it's, almost 100% a scam.
And like you said, with AI, they can spoof someone's voice,
That's right.
or people may not hear as well.
Yes.
And if they have background noise intentionally on that phone call,
Yes.
the person doesn't really hear.
That's exactly right.
And so on your side, when they come into the bank, what are you watching for?
That's a great question. So those are the
Yeah.
reasons why we ask a lot of questions. And we get customers that get frustrated with us
Mhm.
saying, why are you trying to find out my business? Well, as a bank, we're required by federal regulation to try to stop elder abuse. And so we will ask, why are you sending this wire? Do you know the person you're
Mhm.
sending it to? And there's many times that we've been able to stop these scams from happening in process. There's many times that a customer will be on the phone when they come into the bank, and that also alerts us. That's a big red flag. And
Oh,
so we're going to ask those questions to figure out what's going on.
sure. And you literally, the more questions you ask and you're digging out information, well, hey, are you going on a trip? What are you using this money on?
Yes.
And you start digging in.
Yes.
And then you can actually stall try to call their third person that they have down for emergency contact, or just say, you know, we can't do that right now. We'll have to get back with you a little later.
So, yes, those are things that we can
and buy
do.
some time
Yes.
to call in.
Right. And as a bank, we can say no to sending out a wire if there's not a comfort. I think what's so heartbreaking is those same customers who are very cognizant. They're very aware. We can't stop them from taking out cash.
It's their money.
It is their money. And we don't want to keep people from their money.
No.
But we do try to protect them. And so it is heartbreaking when we see them take out thousands of dollars in cash, and then we're not sure what they've done with it at that time. So,
well, and you see, and the big one, romance schemes.
oh my goodness.
That's a huge one.
It is. And I have personally been involved with trying to stop a couple of romance schemes. And I've seen, in one instance alone, $60,000 being just removed from an account that this gentleman chose to remove.
So will you tell me a little bit, like, I know you can't give significant details, but what happened?
Absolutely.
Somebody was asking for money that they had met online.
Yes. Yeah, and he had just lost his wife. And I think these scammers truly use the obituaries because, again, these people are grieving and they've lost somebody that was a big emotional part of their lives. And so it opens them up to a new relationship and to feel that love again and to have that feeling filled. And unfortunately, it's an online. They've never met these people. And in this case, another person was in Florida and much younger, but made promises that we'll get married. And but let's send money. We're going to buy a house together in Arizona, and sent money out. And I don't think he'll ever see this money back, nor will I believe that he will ever see this person who has scammed him out of this money.
I had a friend that had actually signed up, and this wasn't elder, but she had signed up on some dating sites. And the amount of responses and things, it got to be a running joke almost, was she would bring in, and show me all the different responses she had had. And it might be someone that literally was a 20-year-old looking model with a Porsche in the background that lives overseas, and they're interested in someone that's in their, 50s, 60s, and you're going, they sound like such a great life. And the stories they can tell. The reason they can't ever meet in person, there's always an emergency or something. But, and I'm sure you see this also. All of a sudden, someone shows up and they have a person with them that you've never seen before.
Yes.
And they may not let the elder person talk.
Right.
And
we actually see not the people that we haven't seen before. A lot of times, again, it's those caregivers. It's that 9 out of 10 of the individuals that are trusted that come in with the caregiver or come in with the customer. And the customer's asking for things that are out of the ordinary, sometimes asking for cash or opening an account with the caregiver on the account. And I know for myself and most banks, we just don't normally open an account with a caregiver unless there's some family connection to that. And we will ask questions. That's what's nice about being in a small town. A lot of families we know. We are underneath financial privacy, but there may be some phone calls that we make just to say, can you go check on mom?
Just
make sure she's okay.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, and they start changing. They add somebody else on the account. They add that caregiver or somebody, or you'll see somebody that maybe comes in with them that's kind of aggressive and bossy and doesn't let them talk. And let's do a wire. Let's add a name. Let's cash out some CDs early.
Yes. Yeah. And we do see that. And we see the nervousness sometimes of a customer. Sometimes they like, why are we doing this? And then they have to look to that person and they're the ones giving them the answers. And sometimes even holding their arm. And we've even seen like pinching of an arm just to say, I'm in control here and you need to do what I'm asking you to do.
Well, and I thought it was interesting. You had said, lots of times it's someone that's vulnerable, like they don't have family maybe to take care of them. So they are reliant on that person for care.
Yes.
And if they don't do or help them or loan them some money, then they're not going to be there.
That's it. That's right.
And then that person saying, well, who's going to take care and go buy my groceries or take me to my doctor's appointments or just day-to-day care needs that come along with that. So some other ways, charities, that's something else.
Yes. Yeah, charities and lottery scams, investments kind of run together of if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But if certainly on the lotteries, you have to pay the taxes to get the money from some foreign country. The first question would be did you ever fill out a lottery ticket? Why would they be choosing you to win this lottery? And there's no lottery out there, no legitimate lottery that you have to pay to get your winnings. So just be aware and just be knowledgeable, and let's question things.
Okay.
And again, we're working with a generation that doesn't question as much as we do.
Okay, debit cards. We had talked about this.
Oh yes.
So it's harder to prove with the debit card, the liability, typically like with the credit cards, depending on your credit card, but $50. And you can call and say, hey, I had this charge. You may be responsible for the first $50, but it's refunded. But there are some balances, right, with the debit cards that are issued through banks.
There are. So as long as you catch the fraudulent charge within 60 days of the statement date, then you're not held liable for that charge. Now, different banks may extend that just as a courtesy to customers, but you could be up to the $50 maximum. Depending on when you report it, it could even go up to $500. One of the things about debit cards, though, is if you do get scammed, that money's coming out of your account. And so it does take banks a few days to process that and to get a provisional credit back into your account. That's why on some of these online, the e-commerce and the things that you're if you're going to the local grocery store, debit cards are great. But if you're doing something online, really recommend a credit card.
Okay.
Because at that point, if it's a scam, you're just liable for a debt that was incurred, and then you can dispute that with the credit card company and not be held liable for that payment until it's resolved. And in almost all cases, it's resolved and the dispute goes in your favor and it comes off of your credit card bill.
So tell me this, you have a situation where you're really scared about a customer, or you're a family member. What's the first thing? I mean, some of the things. Who would I call to report this?
Right. Great question. If you feel like that there's some immediate need, call 911. Get the police involved. Don't hesitate. The police want to be involved. We'd rather, and as I say, from a banking standpoint, from a police standpoint, we'd rather be wrong and say, boy, I am so sorry I misread that situation. But call 911 if you think there's an immediate need. But beyond that, you can call the...
Let's see, elder care is, here's an email address, eldercare.acl.gov.
Yes.
Is a place you can go to get information. If you've been scammed or your identity stolen, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission.
Yep. And really where I was going to, and I just had forgotten the names, so I apologize, but the Adult Protective Services. Every community has an Adult Protective Services. So you can reach out to them and they will send somebody by the home. Now, it's not always immediate. That's why if you're concerned that there's an immediate risk, call 911. But if you think that somebody's just being scammed and you want to have them checked on, they will send somebody by the door and check on these individuals.
So a recommendation, if you do have an elderly person that you in your life, it's probably good to form a relationship with that person's bank as well, and let them know. Just kind of let's be a partnership to help protect this person,
it can
this
be
loved one.
again, but there's the risk of the financial privacy, right? So as a banker, I can't always go to the family member unless there's a cognitive issue. And those are the easiest to stop. If we know that somebody is not making a cognitive decision and they're having some mental disorders, then we can stop those and make some contacts. But other than that, if they're making a conscious decision and they have all their faculties and their wits about them, then there's some things that the banks are not allowed to do. So we just need to be aware of that. But as family members, be aware. Let's not be naive that it can't happen to our family.
And then it could be one of your family members that's actually doing that as well.
That's right. So stay connected to your family. Know what's normal.
Right.
And hopefully you formed a relationship with the parents or with the caregivers that are who you're responsible for. We see a lot of just individual folks who are neighbors that really care for that longtime neighbor. And those are good folks, but know what's normal.
And no one from the IRS or a debt collection, they're not going to arrest you or come to your house. So those type of calls,
That's right.
just hang
That's
up
right.
right away.
That's exactly right. Don't be afraid to hang up. And you're right. It's not going to happen. But they play on the fear that our elders have.
And the same thing, don't click on those emails that you get that tell you your delivery's delayed or your Prime Amazon account's shut down or things like that.
That's right.
We barely touched the surface.
It's
There
true.
is so much in here, but we do have some different places. There's information on the American Bankers Association in different places, and we
Yes.
have several numbers that we'll put up on the screen
Yes.
for our viewers to see that they can actually get the help.
Absolutely.
So,
And again, just locally, again,
Okay.
911 and the Adult Protective Services.
okay.
Yes.
Leo, thanks so much. Great information. I've wanted you to be on the show for a long time, and maybe we can touch on some other things on another time.
Sounds
But
great.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
And to all of you out there watching, thank you. We will see you next time. Cheers.